Hello and welcome to Globe Chopping. Today we're joined by award-winning Indian chef Sarah Ali Choudhury. Today, Sarah will be taking us through two classic Indian curries. Our audience will be tasting the dishes and deciding which takes the crown. So, hi Sarah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you tell us what we're going to be cooking today?
Today we'll be making a potato, red pepper and aubergine bhaji, and we'll be making a coconut fish curry.
So tell me about this dish that you're making.
So today I'm making potato, aubergine and red pepper bhaji. Very simple dish to make. There's only 3 spices in this. So we've got cumin powder, coriander powder and turmeric powder. We've also got the Indian 5-spice. Now the Indian 5-spice consists of fennel, cumin, nigella, mustard seeds and fenugreek, and that gives it a really lovely flavour for Indian vegetables. So we're going to start by putting some oil in the pan and allowing that to heat up, and then we'll just chop an onion. So this is a dish that is very traditional in Bangladesh, but actually it's my mum that taught me how to make this. Widely eaten in India anyway.
Was your mum where you got your inspiration from cooking?
Absolutely, yes. So we've just waited for the oil to heat up, and now I'm going to add some of the panch phoron, and we'll wait for that to sizzle and pop. And then we'll add some of the garlic and ginger paste in there. Just give it a stir.
So with the panch phoron, can you get that from any supermarket?
Actually, the panch phoron is, I've made this one myself. Obviously, you buy the individual seeds and you mix it yourself, so you've got the same quantity of seeds. So we've got the same amount, like a teaspoon of each. That we put in a bowl, give it a good mix, and then you just use 1 teaspoon of that. Alternatively, you can buy it already made in international supermarkets, but I think I quite like doing it myself because then I know exactly what's in it.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll just wait for this to pop, and then I'm just going to add some garlic and ginger paste in there. Give that a good stir, and then we add the shallot. Now, if you don't have shallots at home, you can use onion or spring onion. It's what's readily available for you.
What's sort of your significance of using shallots? Why do you prefer them?
I like using these shallots for Indian cookery because it's slightly pink, very similar to the onions that they use in India.
Right.
And I find it softens quicker. So therefore it means that the dish will be ready quicker, but it also has a slightly sweeter flavour, which is quite nice with Indian food. So just add in some salt here. Now, while we're waiting for for the onions to soften, what we do is we've got some aubergine, potatoes and red pepper, so we're just going to cut this into pieces.
I notice you've kept the seeds in the red pepper. Some people tend to sort of cut them out. Is that just...
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then some potato. Now it's a good idea to cut the potato in small pieces so that it cooks quicker. Now I can see the onions are coming along now. So what I'd like to do is add some of the spices that we have. So we'll add some turmeric powder, half a teaspoon, and about a teaspoon of cumin powder and coriander powder. Now, if you like chilli and you like your dish hot, at this point you can add fresh chilli or chilli powder in. Now, just to give it a nice consistency and a very slightly thicker flavour, I'm going to give it some plum tomato in there.
So would this dish typically be a main course or more of a side?
So this can be eaten as a main or a side. It is a vegetarian and a vegan dish, so you can have it in a wrap, you can have it with rice, whatever really takes your fancy. I'm just going to put a drop of water in there to allow those spices to mix together. And then I'm going to add the potato right now. We just add the potato first of all, so we know that the potato takes longer to cook. Give it a good stir so all the spices go in, and then we're going to add the pepper. And you can see all that lovely colour coming together now, and you can smell that, can you?
Yeah, it smells lovely.
Now, while that's getting ready, I'm going to put some aubergine in there. Just going to slightly lower the temperature and cover it. I'll add a little bit more water in there. So I'm just going to cut this quite finely.
So if you weren't a fan of any of the vegetables in this, or you wanted to add more, what sort of things would you recommend?
So you can put any vegetables in this. You can use beans or peas or sweet corn, or you can add anything in that you like. I wouldn't recommend adding any poultry into this dish because it might be under flavoured.
Right. What you said before about these spices working really well for the vegetables.
Yes. So you can see that's all starting to come together now.
And see, it does already look so colourful with the purples and the reds.
And just at the end, what we do is we add in some greens. So if you don't have red pepper at home and you have green pepper, you can use green pepper, or if you don't want to use pepper, you don't have to. It's a real mix and match dish. The other great thing is knowing that these spices, the coriander powder and the turmeric, works really, really well with potato and anything potato. So even if you were just cooking potato on its own, you wouldn't need any more than these two spices. That alone brings out a lot of flavour.
Fantastic.
We use coriander at the end of it, and we use it as a garnish, but when you cook with that, it brings that really lovely aroma on the food, and it also adds that colour and vibrancy to the dish. Now, if there are other particular spices that you quite like using at home, if you're a fan of cooking and you have a particular spice that you put in everything, you want to add black pepper or anything, you can always add that as well at the same time that you're adding the other spices.
So it's a nice one for mix and matching your own sort of tastes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really affordable dish to make. I mean, I think the cost of that dish is no more than about £3 to make, and you could have a really nice dinner with that. You can make that as quite a big batch, and you could have that as a proper meal for two, with some rice.
Brilliant.
But it's also nice to be eaten as an accompaniment, as a side dish. If you've got a chicken or lamb dish that you're having as well, it's quite nice to have it on the side.
Lovely.
So for me, I would personally, I would use this as a filling, and what I would do is make samosas.
Oh wow!
With some homemade pastry, similar to short crust pastry, and just roll it out and make the famous triangles and fill it with that filling, deep fry it, nice and crisp golden samosas, because I quite like these more as a snack type food. But this can be, especially for vegan and vegetarian people who are vegan and vegetarian, they love this dish. It's been so popular amongst vegans.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. Right, so it's almost coming together now. So when you add water to the dish, it's better to add it when the spices are cooking. Once you've put all the other vegetables in, better not to add the water. If it starts sticking to the bottom of the pan, you can add a little touch. Yeah. But if you put too much water, you'll make it into a curry, which you can do if that's what you want. But this particular one I'm making is more of a dry dish. Yeah.
That's why it works so well with so many different variations. Yeah.
I'm just going to cut some of the fresh coriander. So if you smell that.
Yeah, it smells beautiful, really fresh.
Give it a stir.
Now you can see really how colourful it is.
It's a really lovely, colourful dish. So if we have the plate, I'll just serve that up. You can see just how colourful that is. And then we just sprinkle it with a little bit of fresh coriander on the top.
Fantastic. It's really nice. The spices work together so well to create a really nice flavour in the dish. Let's see what everybody thought.
Nice and mild. See how it makes a nice side dish.
You guys can't stop, you still go.
It's really, really nice. Very, 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 very flavoursome. And as a student, I'd definitely make this quite cost efficient as well.
So tell me about this dish.
So I'm going to make a coconut fish curry. This is a really easy dish to make and it's so full of flavour, but it's also quite delicate. So we're going to start by putting some oil in the pan and allowing that to heat up. Now in the meantime, I'm just going to cut an onion here, finely chop. This is an Italian shallot, but you can use any onions that you have at home. It needs to be quite finely chopped, this onion. Right, now the oil's starting to heat up, so the next step is to add in some mustard seeds. Now mustard seeds that I'm using are the brown and white ones, but you can use either or, it doesn't make any difference, they all taste just as good. So we put the seeds in and then you'll see it will start to pop. And once you see it starting to pop, we add in some mixed garlic and ginger paste. Mustard seeds can be quite messy, it goes all over the place, so it's quite, makes more sense to cook in a deeper type of pan. I'm just going to add the onion in now. You can smell that mustard seed.
Yeah, it smells really strong.
Now while we're waiting for the onions to soften, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt to that. And you don't want to add too much salt because fish is very light, and it does, you know, it can get salty very easily.
Yeah. And
if you it's always better to add less salt. So just while we're allowing for the onions to soften, the spices that we'll be using in this dish, some fresh turmeric powder, some fresh coriander powder, and a little bit of mixed curry powder. So at this point, while we're waiting for the onions to soften, you can add some chilies in. Now, I'm going to add in 2 whole chilies. You can cut these chilies and make the dish hotter, but I don't want to make it too hot. Now that's coming along really nicely. So I'm now going to add in turmeric powder and coriander powder and some mixed curry powder.
So where did you come across this dish?
This is actually a Goan dish. Again, my mum taught me how to make this. My mum taught me how to make everything I know. So we travel quite a lot to Goa, and this is also quite popular in South India regions like Sri Lanka. So I'm just going to add a little touch of water at this point, which will just allow the spices to combine well together and it won't be gritty. Now, we know when the spices are ready because when you add water into a dish, it goes quite a bland colour, and then as the water starts to evaporate, you see the colour get darker in certain areas.
Right.
That's when you know the spices are cooked. So here, around the edges, you can see the spices are starting to cook now. I'm going to allow that to cook a little bit more, and I'm going to add a little touch more water.
I think a lot of people tend to be afraid to put water in with their cooking because they worry that it's going to make it too wet or too soggy.
It can,
yeah,
depending on what it is. But for this particular dish, where we're using fish, we want it to be a light dish. We're actually adding coconut milk as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good place to start with this to allow the spices to be not powdery. Now, the fish that I'm using is cod. Cod is one of the firmer type of fishes, and even this cooks really, really quickly. It doesn't take very long at all, and I'm cutting it in smaller parts so that it cooks quicker in the sauce. The longer you leave the fish in the pan, the more likely it is to break up, and we don't want the fish to break. So I'm just going to add this fish in now.
So are there any other sort of fish that you would recommend for this dish as well?
So I would recommend something like monkfish or a fleshy type of fish with less bone in it. So you can use like tilapia fish as well. It's quite readily available, and you can find it in the freezers in Tesco's and other supermarkets. So while we're allowing the fish to cook in those spices, we're going to then allow that to come to the boil a bit, and then we'll just add some of this coconut milk. So this is tinned coconut milk. You can use powdered coconut milk by sprinkling a little bit in at the end of the powder. And it's quite a condensed flavour, so you don't need too much of the powdered milk, and it lasts for a long time in your cupboard. But the same with the tins, they last a long time in the cupboard as well. Right, so I'm just going to add in some of the coconut milk now.
Is this a dish you cook often?
I don't cook it that regularly, but it is. It's like more of a special dish that I would cook at home.
Yeah.
If I've got a friend coming around for dinner or something like that. I don't like cooking it in bulk because you can't cook this type of fish in bulk. It will just break.
Yeah.
So it's nicer as a more artisan type gourmet style food.
What would you serve it with?
So I would have this with rice. Right, so this is ready to serve now.
Yeah, brilliant. smells amazing. All right, let's see what the audience thinks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Right, so coming to you guys first. What's the verdict?
Oh yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
I would not I think fish is the last thing you really think of when you think of a curry, but it really works really well. Yeah, I think it's a nice level of spice, I would say.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really quick to make as well, so it's the sort of thing that I would consider making at home, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very speedy one, that. This dish is absolutely lovely. I think the spices work so well with the fish, and this one's absolutely my favourite. But we have had the audience vote on what they preferred, and they enjoyed the aubergine bhaji the most for the sort of ease of getting the ingredients. It's vegan, it's popular. Two really good dishes all round though. Sadly, that's all we've got time for on this week's episode of Globe Chopping. Thank you so much to our wonderful chef, Sarah Ali Choudhury, for cooking two really tasty Indian dishes. We hope you'll give them a try at home yourselves. Join us next week where we'll be diving deeper into Mediterranean cuisine with a traditional Mediterranean home cook who'll be showing you guys two more easy and flavoursome meals to make at home yourselves. Goodbye.